This video is sponsored by Enlisted. Hey there, I'm Aki and I'm developing Subnautica Call of the Void, and this is how we want to implement creature attacks and base defense. And some other changes we're making to bases. One of those new changes is an oxygen system. But don't worry, it only starts to affect your base once you go below 1,500 meters. Oxygen generation will cost more energy there, and you can reduce it again by planting greenery in your base or using the new terrarium building piece. Bigger bases also need more greenery to support their oxygen production if you don't want higher power drain. We decided to implement this oxygen system as a way to balance base building way down in the depths where it definitely should have some added challenges compared to just below sea level. Of course, you also are going to need a lot more advanced reinforcements, but this is the easiest way to make sure you don't go overboard with your base. I'm also not sure if leaks in your base should drain oxygen, which means it would increase your power drain even more if your base was damaged, but you can let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. That could add some extra stakes and danger to defending your base. Let me know what you think. Quick intervention, by the way, you may have noticed we didn't post a devlog this month. That's because last month was spent entirely working on the silence, and you've already seen the video on that, I hope. So the next one will be coming out at the end of January. Talking about base defense though, it is going to be a very important thing throughout the entire game. That's because not just special creatures will attack you. All aggressive creatures can and will attack your base if you're too intrusive in their natural habitat. That means if your base gets too big, anything from a small biter to a sand shark or even a reaper will attack your base. Of course, some creatures are more aggressive than others, and building in Leviathan territory is much more dangerous than just building in the kelp forest. Not only are Leviathans more dangerous by doing more damage, but they're also way less tolerant of anyone invading their territory. When a creature attacks your base, you'll get a warning and a chance to activate any defense you might have, or go out and defend it yourself. But that might not go too well, you mainly only have a knife. If a base piece takes too much damage, you will find water leaking into your base and flooding it, so building bulkheads to separate your base into different segments is super important. And when a base piece is completely destroyed, it will look something like this. Anything you build inside is still there, but the ceilings and walls are torn apart, and you can just swim in and out of your base. To repair it, you need to use your builder tool, since a welder really can't fix this. We decided to not destroy your base completely, because that would just make it unnecessarily complicated to make sure you don't lose a ton of progress by accidentally deleting your valuable storage locker. And because resources are finite, this would eventually just make sure you run out of resources no matter what, which doesn't really sound that fun. But of course, constantly being under attack and having to repair your base would get annoying real quick too, so here are some ways to defend yourself. There are several new modules you can build to scare off attackers, reinforce your base, and stop them from doing damage. You can plant tiger plants in external grow beds, and they will automatically attack any creatures near your base, causing them to flee. They will no longer attack you or your base or vehicles when you plant them yourself. In the void clusters, you'll find variants of this plant that work in slightly different ways to scare off different kinds of creatures or just are plainly more effective. Alterra, of course, also provides some defensive modules. Now, some of you might be expecting turret towers or some actual weapons to fight attacking creatures with, but we will stick to the no weapons rule of Subnautica. If you do want some weapons, check out today's sponsor, Enlisted. Enlisted is a squad-based first-person shooter that might remind you of War Thunder at first, but it goes way more in depth. Here, you get the same cool damage visualization and realistic damage calculations to individual components when damaging enemy tanks, but you can also just leave your tank and fight on foot with your AI-controlled squad. In Enlisted, you fight other players on PC, Xbox and PlayStation in some of the most pivotal World War II battles, on the sides of the US, Germany, the Soviets and Japan. You can unlock hundreds of vehicles and weapons to customize your squads with, and there are a bunch of different playstyles thanks to the different abilities and equipment of your squads. The game also just got a massive meta update with research trees full of weapons and vehicles, a matchmaking system and more. My favorite playstyle is playing as an engineer, where you actually set up fortifications and artillery to help out your team, but I also love playing medics to keep my team alive. And if you're on a lower end system, you don't have to suffer FPS issues because Enlisted is actually really optimized. Download Enlisted for free with my link in the description to get a bonus pack with in-game currency, equipment for your squad, and a 3-day premium account. Click the link to support Call of the Void and let's get back to the video. Things like these lights that are already in the game will scare off light-sensitive creatures, but will attract light-seeking creatures. So you need to adapt your base and defenses to the environment you build it in. This is very important because you definitely don't want to attract certain creatures. In some biomes you may have to balance it out because some creatures in the same biome might be scared of or attracted to light. But you can also build sound-based defenses like the sonic deterrent that sends out high-frequency sound waves which will create a region around your base that certain creatures will avoid entering or attacking your base in. Any reinforcements you build also increase the health of that base and prevent small creatures from damaging it. Specifically for the Lurker Leviathan, you can build crystalline reinforcements on connections between base pieces to prevent it from ripping them out and also preventing all damage below a certain threshold. So these are extremely helpful if you don't build in Leviathan territory. Something that we're not actually sure of yet is if we want to add interior modules that might have different effects on your base. For example, a module that would allow you to electrify the outside of your base, which would automatically send anything attacking your base running after taking too much damage. Of course, anything attached to your base wouldn't like that as well. Keep in mind, some creatures may have attacks with special effects, like the amp eel shocking your base and overloading it for a short time, which disables electric defenses. Of course, the crab squid takes this to the next level and completely disables your base for a short time. Lava larvae might not directly damage your base, but constantly draw power, so you definitely don't want them there. Multiple of the new creatures we're adding in Call of the Void also have unique ways of interacting with your base, and while you probably don't want most of them, some might even help you. So if you want to, you may just find yourself in a symbiotic relationship with an alien life form. We have multiple ideas on how that could work. For example, a floater-like organic structure covering your base, which is extremely shock absorbent and super efficient at nullifying any electric attacks. A tough vine-like growth around your base to nullify any physical attacks from regular creatures or just reduce the effectiveness of them. Or even hives growing on your base with tiny creatures attacking anything that gets too close to your base. Like always, we need feedback. Or if you have any specific ideas for defense modules or other mechanics for base attacks, let me know in the comments or on my Discord server. You can also give your feedback to the devs directly by supporting them on Patreon and joining the dev Discord server. If you have way too much money, you can even work with us to bring one of your creature ideas into the game, once the tier is free again. And the biggest new addition, of course, is the Hydra dock. We are still figuring out the logistics, but the idea is docking the Hydra directly to your base and moving the front window out of the way for you to just enter the base directly. This is where you spend resources to install the upgrades you unlocked in the skill tree, and where you can recharge your submarine, refill oxygen, and of course, repair it. A completely wild idea I had was precursor placeables. Remember those cool teleporters you could put in your base from below zero? That could be a really cool addition to reward exploring precursor bases and solving puzzles, don't you think? Or maybe an ion reactor that can use ion crystals to power your base. We could even add some precursor defense modules to help you against creature attacks. Precursor tech opens up a bunch of possibilities for cool buildables, so any of your ideas in the comments are appreciated and might even make it into the mod. But of course, we are not sure how easy any of this will be to implement, so take this with a grain of salt. I hope you're excited for this as I am, but I do have to give a big disclaimer here. My deep dive videos are essentially a wish list and a collection of things we will try to add, but not a promise for what will be in the mod once it's complete. And base building stuff is especially difficult. I don't know what the Subnautica devs did when they were adding base building, but it is so complex and convoluted that nobody has ever managed to add a new base piece, as far as I know. We don't know anything about how the base system works exactly, and even once we do, it will be very hard to implement stuff. I'm confident that we will be able to add some new buildables, but I don't know to what extent. Things like an oxygen system and creatures simply damaging your base are definitely reasonable, but base pieces being destroyed or ripped out and adding a new base piece like the hydrodock are still hypothetical. We will of course try our best, but there's a very low chance we'll be able to implement everything exactly like we want to. Unless of course we get one of the devs who worked on this to help us, but they're very busy with Subnautica 2 at the moment, so that's unlikely. Still, this is what we're planning for bases, and I hope you're excited. Again, huge thank you to Enlisted for sponsoring this video. Make sure to click the link in the description and sign up for free to claim your bonus pack with items, in-game currency, and a premium account. Remember to leave feedback on the base defense ideas in the comments on my Discord server, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!